And welcome to the Daily Space Weather Show. We're back after approximately that amount of time. Yeah, just about one Carrington rotation since we've done the regular show. So yeah, that's the past 28 days. So we were out for 4 weeks, but not 5. Exactly 4 weeks of missing the daily space weather content. So anyway, we're back. That's the point. Let's take out some fresh imagery here of the closest star. There are the past 24 hours from the ever-popular SDO 171 angstroms. Don't worry, we'll zoom in a little bit closer here. We'll show you the features that we normally show you. There's a little closer equatorial zoom. By the way, the most likely place to see a large solar flare is down here, right in here in this southwestern quadrant. We'll come back to show you that full 28-day SDO imagery first, some 304 angstroms for the past 24 hours, as that is what we usually show on the Daily Space Weather Show. And if you're wondering what we've been up to, well, it's partially available on Instagram. So you can sort of put 2 and 2 together by checking us out on Instagram. That'll solve some of the confusion about where we've been, and it has to do with massive restructuring and priorities and all kinds of stuff that is mainly in our control. So anyway, here are the past 24, or this is actually just today, the 94 angstroms wavelength, and indeed the largest flares did come from that southwestern quadrant. Again, still the most likely place, and we do have an open proton channel right now. So, we have a magnetic channel currently open to the sun, so to speak. So don't be surprised to see more proton spikes as the current solar proton-induced radiation storm at the poles is in the process of subsiding. The 10.7 centimeter radial flux is now at... Hey, that's a good question. What is it now at? It's at 181. There you go. 181 solar flux units is the radial flux. And basically NASA, well, both NOAA and ESA are expecting a CME impact here within the next about 12 hours. So yeah, radial flux now at 181 solar flux units. We have seen that rise to the highest levels we've seen during solar cycle 25, just getting above 230 there. And yeah, we did see the sunspot number there get above 220 for a brief period as well. So, and of course, we're still a few months out from solar maximum, so expect levels at this level, expect solar activity levels as high as we're seeing them now for the coming, 8 months. So, those are just the statistical analysis facts. And so, here's the Enlil spiral. You can see NOAA is expecting a CME impact sometime around midday tomorrow on June 10th. Could be a significant geomagnetic storm, probably not something above a KP7. So don't expect to see a KP8, but a KP7 is entirely possible. This CME will largely be missing Earth to the west and a bit to the south. ESA is sort of on the same page there. You can see ESA expecting that impact a little bit earlier. Oh no, around the same time, 12 noon, so midday tomorrow on June 10th. Now, of course, we've seen major CME impacts since we've made a space weather video, and what do you know? Civilization hasn't ended. The apocalypse just hasn't arrived, so not that you shouldn't plan for one. I mean, it's always nice to have additional capabilities. But, yeah, everything's fine. No power grids fried. No alien invasions have occurred, of which I'm aware. So, there are the past 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from space. It is geomagnetically calm here at the moment. Ground magnetic perturbations map is next. And you may find that our videos are a little bit shorter moving forward, as there'll be less information about meteorology, earthquakes and volcanoes. They're on the trash heap. So, yeah, they're on the cutting room floor, folks. It's space weather. And, so KP index is at 1.67. Geomagnetically calm. Solar wind here is chill. There is a little bit of a perturbation happen there. Could that be the onset of a CME impact? If so, it's very weak so far. So that's the data from ACE. Let's look at Discover. It's been more reliable, at least a month ago it was more reliable. Discover is showing about 440 kilometers a second for the solar wind velocity, solar wind density about 4.5 protons per cubic centimeter. GOES magnetometer smooth. Expect some variations in that as the CME impact arrives. Next, we'll look at we'll look at the heliosphere's magnetism. And Earth right now is in a South Pole-oriented magnetic sector, so not too exciting there. Nothing changing in the next couple of days there. That likely to continue South Pole magnetic sector. Here's our line of sight field plot. And that's what's going on with the sun's B field. That's the blue lines. The red potential field surface source lines are the south polar fields, and green are the north polar fields, while the grayscale is the photosphere magnetism. Next, coronal holes. And we've got a mixed bag right now. A mixed bag of coronal holes, I tell you. So let's move on and take a look at... Could have sworn I had them doggone coronal holes. I know I got coronal holes. All right, here we go. I apologize for that temporary delay. All right, there we are. Coronal holes there in 211 angstroms. Again, it is a mixed bag. We have both north and south pole-oriented coronal hole sectors. Next, we'll get the sunspots. First, things like the sunspot number. And sunspot number, according to the Royal Observatory of Belgium, is just under 150. So like 146, it looks like. 146 sunspots. Now, we do have some likelihood of a large solar flare occurring from sunspot 3709. But again, it is much more likely to see one from sunspot 3697. This one right here in the southwestern quadrant. So most likely place to see a large solar flare remains there. Remember, folks, solar flares become more likely as sunspots approach the limb. Now, here's this waning proton storm we talked about. And before we move on to that, let's take a look at sunspots here from SDO. That's what 146 sunspots looks like. And those are looking mostly stable over the past 24 hours. A little bit of growth happening there in the east, I think. Not a lot of degradation. Not a lot of new groups forming. Here is our magnetometer, I think. Come on, then. Well, why isn't it there? What's up with that? There we are. There is our SDO magnetometer. Magnetogram, I should say, not magnetometer. So there's that. And next we'll get to flares and so forth. Energetic particles will be first. Again, proton flux here is subsiding, so you can expect to see the polar radio blackout subsiding here, as well as that greater than 10 mega electron volt proton flux shown in red dips below the warning threshold. So in the next few hours, expect to see those polar radio blackouts go away. They're not quite gone yet. The South Pole ones should be completely gone here in an hour or so. The North Pole ones may take another couple hours yet, but they'll be subsiding, assuming no new events strike. We've only had M-class intensifications for the past 24 hours as far as solar flares go. That's the X-ray flux for the past 3 days. 3 M-class intensifications. Let's take a look at those from SDO. There's the 131 angstroms wavelength. And there's a little closer view. And that is our T-mass. As that is the location of those M-class solar flares. And there we go. That's not half bad. Not bad at all. By the way, none of this activity is a harbinger of the apocalypse. This is totally normal. It happens during every solar cycle. If you're spooked of space weather, there are certainly channels that you can watch that will facilitate you being even more spooked of space weather. So by all means, tune into those and press a dislike for our channel. We are delighted by rage comments as well, so feel free to leave those. They're indeed encouraged. So here's our solar system forecast. This is the next 7 days. We've got this lovely crescent moon shortly after sunset tonight here in Lehigh Valley. That's where things will be in a week as Mercury swings around to blow past Venus. And we've got a bunch of things setting at the same time here in the western sky over Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Jupiter, Mercury, Venus, and the Sun all setting there in fairly close succession. Our astronomy photo of the day is how to identify that light in the sky, apod.nasa.gov if you want to check that out. If there are any astronauts waving to you, it's the International Space Station. Next we'll move on to coronagraphs. And yeah, it's been chill for the past 24 hours. So Venus there emerging on the left of your frame. Mercury about to make its way behind the back of the Sun from LASCO C3's perspective. And yeah, Venus and Mercury there on the coronagraphs. Now we'll also show stereo A, and we'd like to show this image to show where it's located as it speeds away from Earth. Located to the west of the Earth. And here's a CME that's expected to arrive shortly. So that's from yesterday. We'll play out the propagation of that for you here. We'll show you both the raw imagery on the left and the difference imagery on the right. So here comes that CME. Again, expect that in the next few hours, sometime around midday tomorrow. Must be a pretty fast mover, or it wouldn't be arriving. It wouldn't be expected to arrive by both ESA and NASA as early as it is. So that's what's going on there. Next, custom coronagraphs. These are 24-hour videos. That's the LASCO C3 in blue, C2 in red, and the SDO 304 angstroms wavelength ionized helium in the center. And you can see a bunch of snow, a bunch of static there on the, especially the C3. That is a bunch of relativistic particles striking the aperture. So like I said, there is a proton channel open right now. Again, if we see a large solar flare on that southwestern limb, don't be surprised to see the proton flux go right back up. It's a juiced up system at the moment. It's a little juiced up in terms of potential field surface source lines, actual magnetic field lines connecting the southwestern limb of the Sun and the planet Earth. So that is when proton events are more likely. There's the full zoom. That's SDO 304 plus 193 angstroms, which brings us to filaments. There's the filament situation, and we do have some pretty massive ones. Not a preposterously large amount, but that's El Teide, Spain's ground-based hydrogen alpha observatory. Here is the grayscale imagery. Some prominence is there as a huge filament is setting in the southwest, suspended by the magnetic fields of that massive sunspot, the T-mass. And we'll show bonus features here briefly. There are the past couple of hours on the GO 16 SUVI, 304 angstroms wavelength. Charging hazards are non-existent at the moment for satellites. The GOES electron flux remains quite low here. There's the forecast model. Some missing data there, so not sure. There is no observation. It is missing for the day. That's what those yellow tick marks mean down there at the bottom. We'll also show the ionosphere. Now, there may be a slight shift of the South Atlantic anomaly here, so I was noticing that. Now, keep in mind, again, it's been 28 days since we made a video, or at least a regular daily space weather video, so that can affect things. But when we look at the anomalygram, that's the raw ionosonde. Here's the anomalygram. It looks like the South Atlantic anomaly has shifted to the southeast a little bit to me. So it looks like it's more on the coast of South America, the Atlantic coast there, just north of the 30-degree latitude line. So that's an interesting happening. Keep in mind, around the solstice, the Earth is at the highest sort of angle with respect to the incoming solar radiation. And keep in mind that also does make major solar storms, major geomagnetic storms, less likely to happen because of the lack of the Russell-McLaren effect. We are seeing some significant GPS anomalies likely in the South Pacific and in the Atlantic Oceans. Yeah, indeed, there is a little bit of washout happening there. So, not sure what's up with that. Communications failures, perhaps. Here are the latest images of the closest star. And we'll close out the video with some additional imagery here. So let's see, what do we got? How about the 171 angstroms? So yeah, that's where we'll close things out. Again, expect things to be changing around a little bit around here. You may notice some minor differences tonight. But in any case, thanks for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, press the like button, the subscribe button, etc. And don't forget to visit the links below the video, help support the channel, and so forth. We'll see you soon here at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. In the meantime, I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, signing off. And may that solar wind be at your back.